3 people, 3 different years, all vanished without a trace. A teenage girl disappears on her walk home. A college student steps out of a taxi and is never seen again. An army veteran vanishes deep in the woods. Decades later, their cases remain unsolved, their names still whispered in mystery. These are the stories of Kathy Moulton, Mary Virginia Carpenter, and Alvin Matlock. 3 lives lost to time, and the chilling questions that still have no answers. On September 24, 1971, 16-year-old Kathy Marie Moulton disappeared from her hometown of Portland, Maine. Kathy was a bright and friendly teenager, well liked by classmates at Deering High School. That Friday, she was excited to attend a school dance and spent part of the afternoon running errands before preparing for the evening. Her father dropped her off on Cumberland Avenue, where she said she wanted to buy pantyhose and toothpaste. Afterward, she visited a friend who worked at a music store on Forest Avenue, chatting for a short while before saying she would walk home, a trip of about 1.5 miles. It was broad daylight when she left, and witnesses later recalled seeing her walking along Forest Avenue carrying a brown leather Mexican clutch purse that contained her house key, 2 tubes of toothpaste, and a small amount of cash. When Kathy failed to return home by dinner, her parents immediately grew concerned. She was responsible and dependable, not the kind of girl who would disappear without a word. As night fell, they reported her missing. In the days that followed, search efforts spread across Portland, but there was no sign of her. Not long after, police received disturbing information. Kathy had been seen in a stolen blue Cadillac with a man named Lester Everett, a friend of hers. While some believed she might have gone with him willingly, others suspected something more sinister. Additional reports placed Kathy, Lester, and another man, Ronald Reed Purley, in the remote woods of Aroostook County several weeks later. A mechanic at a Fort Fairfield garage recalled the trio stopping to buy tires. He noted Kathy looked frightened and withdrawn. Ronald seemed to control her every move, even guiding her by the neck when she walked. The 3 were later spotted across the border in Canada on the Tobique Reserve, where they stayed for several days before returning to Maine to work at McBride's farm in Mars Hill, harvesting potatoes. During this time, Kathy's distress became painfully evident. A teenage girl working at the farm befriended her and said Kathy often cried and spoke of wanting to go home. She feared her parents must be worried and said she didn't trust Lester or the men on the farm. Her pleas to leave were ignored. On September 29, 1971, while the other workers gathered around a bonfire, Lester told Kathy they were going for a drive. Witnesses saw them leave in the Cadillac. Kathy begged him to take her home, but she was never seen again. Lester returned alone the next morning, claiming he had dropped her off at another camp. In reality, he had driven her back across the border to the Tobique Reserve and left her with Ronald. After the harvest ended, Lester and several others left for Florida to pick oranges. He was never seen in Maine again. When questioned by investigators years later, Lester denied knowing anything about Kathy's fate. He died of cancer in the mid-1980s at the age of 35. Ronald, meanwhile, had a long criminal history that included rape and home invasion. He became the prime suspect, but despite multiple interrogations, he refused to cooperate, even when police offered him immunity in exchange for the truth. Members of his family confirmed that Lester had dropped Kathy off at their home, and some hinted that a relative had harmed her, yet they too refused to testify or allow searches of their property. Investigators believe Kathy died on the Tobique Reserve sometime before Thanksgiving of 1971. In 1983, a hunter near Smyrna, Maine, claimed to have found a human skeleton surrounded by women's clothing. Many thought the remains could have been Kathy's, but the hunter was unable to locate the site again, and the bones were never recovered. At the time of her disappearance, Kathy had no known reason to run away. Friends described her as cheerful, kind, and devoted to her family. Her father passed away in 2017, never learning what became of her. Her mother, now elderly, continues to hope that someone will one day come forward with the truth, that the decades-long mystery of Kathy Marie Moulton will finally be solved, and her family can at last find peace. Mary Virginia Carpenter was 21 when she vanished without a trace in the summer of 1948. A bright, independent young woman from Texarkana, Texas, she was preparing to attend Texas Woman's University in Denton for the summer term. She had previously studied at the University of Arkansas, but transferred after deciding to pursue a new career path in laboratory science. On June 1st, 1948, Mary boarded a train to Denton, a 6-hour trip. When she arrived that evening, she took a taxi driven by Edgar Ray Zachary to Brackenridge Hall, her dormitory on campus. Zachary said he dropped her off at about 9 p.m. Mary gave him a baggage claim ticket and $1 to pick up her trunk the next day. After exiting the cab, she approached 2 young men standing beside a yellow convertible, believed to be a Pontiac, one tall, the other stocky. She appeared to know them, speaking casually before the driver left. That was the last confirmed sighting of her. Mary never checked into her dorm and was never heard from again. When she failed to call home, her worried family contacted police. Mary was close to her parents and friends, making it unthinkable that she would disappear voluntarily. Some speculated that Mary had run off with a lover. She had recently broken off an engagement and was known to fall for people quickly, according to acquaintances, but her family rejected that theory. She had no reason to leave. She was excited about her classes and had made future plans. Investigators first questioned her former fiancé, Kenny Branham, and taxi driver Edgar Zachary. Kenny cooperated fully, passed lie detector tests, and was the one who first reported Mary missing. Police quickly cleared him. Their focus then shifted to Zachary, who had a reputation for violence and a record for petty crimes. Years later, in 1957, he was arrested for attempted rape, though charges were dropped when the victim refused to testify. Zachary's wife initially claimed he was home by 10 p.m., the night Mary disappeared, but a decade later, she admitted she had lied. He hadn't returned until around 2 or 3 a.m. Despite the new statement, Zachary passed 2 polygraph tests and was never charged. He died in 1984, still considered a prime suspect. Mary's case gained additional attention because of her connection to the Texarkana Phantom Killer murders, which had terrorized her hometown 2 years earlier. Between 1946 and 1947, 5 young people were murdered in Lovers Lane areas by an unknown assailant. Mary had personally known 3 of the victims, leading some to wonder if her disappearance was somehow related. Investigators could never prove a link. Decades later, in 1998, police received a chilling tip. 2 men had allegedly raped and murdered Mary shortly after she vanished, burying her near a stock tank dam close to the university. Both suspects were deceased, but authorities searched the area thoroughly. No evidence or remains were found. Over the years, occasional leads and reported sightings surfaced, but none led anywhere. Both of Mary's parents passed away without learning what happened to their only daughter. Her case remains one of Texas's oldest unsolved disappearances. Today, Mary's 3 surviving cousins continue to seek closure. They hope that one day someone will come forward with the truth, so that the mystery of Mary Virginia Carpenter, the young woman who stepped out of a taxi on a warm June night in 1948 and vanished forever, can finally be put to rest. Like Mary, Army veteran Alvin Matlock was just 21 years old when he vanished without a trace in the spring of 1951. Dozens of theories have surfaced over the years about what may have happened to him, but none have ever brought peace to his family. At the time of his disappearance, Alvin lived alone in a small cabin on Browns Mountain, tucked deep in the woods of Spokane County, Washington. He was last seen in the city of Spokane, where he often traveled for supplies. His younger brother Clyde, who was only 12 years old back then, still remembers the day Alvin disappeared, as if it were yesterday. Today, Clyde is 83 years old, and he continues to hold out hope that his brother's remains will one day be found. In 2016, Clyde and his wife Patricia attended the first ever Missing Persons Day event, hosted by the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office. The event was created to help families reconnect with cold cases. Attendees could submit DNA samples, dental records, and photographs of missing loved ones. Clyde handed over an old photograph of Alvin in his army uniform, hoping that some fragment of evidence might finally lead to answers after more than 6 decades. The family's nightmare began when Alvin failed to show up for Thanksgiving dinner in November 1951. He had last spoken to relatives in March that year, telling them where his cabin was located. When he didn't arrive for the holiday meal, his mother grew alarmed and drove out to Browns Mountain to check on him. Inside the cabin, she found silence. Alvin was gone, and both of his vehicles had disappeared as well. A nearby neighbor told the family that Alvin had quietly packed his things and moved to Alaska, supposedly to start a new life. For a while, the family wanted to believe that story. Alvin had always been a solitary, outdoors-loving man, and the idea of him retreating into the wilderness of Alaska seemed believable, at least at first. But as the years passed, and no letters, calls, or sightings ever surfaced, hope faded. Rumors began to spread through the community. Some claimed Alvin had been having an affair with a married woman, and that her husband had discovered the relationship. According to whispers from alleged neighbors, an argument broke out, and during the fight, the woman may have shot Alvin. Some even claimed they heard cries for help echoing from the woods that night, but that no one came to his aid. Others believed the couple panicked, leaving him to die and hiding what they'd done. Police investigated these disturbing rumors, but with no body, no evidence, and no witnesses willing to come forward, the case quickly grew cold. There were no official records showing that Alvin ever moved to Alaska. No property, no job, no paper trail, nothing. Yet, despite the lack of proof, some still clung to the idea that he had simply started over somewhere far away. As the decades went by, suspicion also began to fall on the very neighbor who first claimed Alvin had moved north. His story never quite added up. Patricia, Clyde's wife, began doing detective work of her own, digging through archives, contacting old locals, trying to track down anyone who might have known Alvin back then. Every effort ended in frustration and dead ends. At the 2016 Missing Persons event, Clyde's hope had not faded. He stood quietly as he submitted his DNA, knowing it might be his last chance to bring closure to a mystery that had haunted his family for nearly 70 years. There have been no confirmed leads, no discoveries in the forest surrounding Browns Mountain, just silence and the passage of time. Yet even now, Clyde says he often imagines his brother walking through those woods again, smiling like he did when they were young. Somewhere out there, he believes, Alvin's story is waiting to be uncovered, and until that day comes, his family will never stop searching.